A Mafia boss tried to close her flower shop. Then the black maid showed him 99 matching notices and one red ledger. "Do not sign that closure order," Naomi Brooks said, standing in the marble foyer of Lucian Moretti's Lake Forest estate, with rain darkening the shoulders of her maid's uniform. "The signatures beneath yours belong to men who have already sold you the same property twice." Lucian looked up from the document on the console table. At 40, the white Italian-American hotel owner had built a reputation for ending disputes before breakfast and never reversing a public decision. Naomi, a 29-year-old African-American woman who managed his household 3 days a week and ran a small flower shop in Bronzeville the other 4, had never interrupted a business meeting. Yet she now held a red delivery ledger against her chest, as if it were a witness. The closure order concerned her shop, Brooks & Bloom. Lucian's development company had purchased the block for a luxury residence project. His advisors claimed the florist had violated a lease clause and missed 3 certified notices. By noon, a contractor would change the locks. By evening, the neighborhood would believe Naomi had failed. Lucian studied her calm face, her natural curls pinned into a low bun, and the steady way she met his gray eyes. "You have 10 minutes. Naomi opened the ledger. Every Friday for 6 months, flowers from her shop had been delivered to the Moretti offices. The invoices listed conference rooms, retirement dinners, and client receptions, but 3 deliveries were addressed to private suites rented under shell companies. The names on those receipts matched the witnesses who had certified her lease notices. "I never received those notices," she said. "The courier's signatures were copied from old delivery slips. Yesterday, one of your assistants asked me to recreate an arrangement from a photograph. The photograph showed this ledger open on a desk beside a purchase agreement." Lucian's expression did not change, but his hand moved away from the pen. The purchase agreement in question gave his chief operating officer, Victor Dane, authority to acquire the remaining storefronts through a special partnership. Lucian had approved a limited version. He had not approved duplicate sales or fabricated defaults. "You photographed the desk?" he asked. "No. I wrote down what I saw. Then check my records. I am not asking you to save my shop because I work here. I am asking you to verify who benefits from closing it today." Victor entered from the library, immaculate in a navy suit, and stopped when he saw the ledger. "This is inappropriate. Household staff should not interfere with corporate matters." Naomi closed the book. "Then corporate staff should not forge household delivery signatures." Lucian turned the unsigned order face down. He told Victor the closure would be delayed for 48 hours pending an audit. Victor protested that investors were arriving and any hesitation would damage Lucian's reputation. Lucian answered that a reputation built on false paperwork was already damaged. Naomi expected dismissal, perhaps anger. Instead, Lucian asked her to remain after the meeting. As Victor left, he looked at her not with panic, but calculation. When the doors closed, Lucian spoke quietly. "You have shown me a problem. Now tell me why 99 women canceled contracts with my hospitality group this morning." Naomi placed a second folder beside the ledger. "Because they all received the same kind of notice I did." The folder contained 99 copies of lease warnings, vendor penalties, and canceled event agreements collected by women across Chicago. Some owned bakeries, tailoring studios, cleaning companies, and childcare centers. Others supplied linens, flowers, staffing, or accounting services to Moretti properties. Every notice cited a different violation, yet the language, spacing, and misspelled legal phrase were identical. Naomi explained that Brooks & Bloom belonged to a mutual aid network called the Southside Women's Ledger. Members shared recommendations, emergency referrals, and contract advice. 2 weeks earlier, a caterer named Evelyn Price had posted a suspicious penalty letter. Naomi compared it with her own closure notice and recognized the same copied signature style. She asked members to check their files. 99 responded. They had not dumped Lucian's entire inner circle out of spite. They had paused work until someone independent verified the contracts. Lucian read in silence. The total value of the frozen agreements was large enough to delay hotel openings, private events, and investor tours. Victor had described the cancellations as a coordinated attack on Lucian. The folder suggested something else, a coordinated response to his executives. "You organized this while working in my home," Lucian said. "I organized it after work. using records from my business. I did not share anything from this house. You understood what it would cost me. I understood what silence would cost us. The answer irritated him because it was reasonable. Lucian believed responsibility moved downward from the person whose name appeared on the building. Naomi believed evidence moved upward, regardless of rank. Neither was willing to pretend those principles were the same. He proposed an agreement. For 48 hours, Naomi would help his outside counsel identify overlaps between the women's notices and Moretti transactions. In return, he would suspend every closure action on the block, preserve all records, and guarantee that no participant would lose a contract for cooperating. Naomi added a condition. The guarantee had to be written, signed, and sent directly to all 99 women before she shared names. Lucian almost refused. No employee or vendor had ever rewritten his terms in his own foyer. Then he remembered Victor's certainty that delay would be worse than error. He signed. By afternoon, Naomi sat in a secure conference room at the Moretti Grand Chicago with Lucian and independent attorney Rachel Kim, the only secondary advisor Lucian trusted outside Victor's chain of command. Rachel confirmed that the notices used outdated company letterhead and referenced a compliance office dissolved 2 years earlier. Yet payment records showed resolution fees flowing into a consulting firm called North Meridian. North Meridian was owned by Victor's sister. The first clear consequence arrived at 4. A major investor postponed a dinner after learning the florist, caterer, and event staff had paused service. Victor blamed Naomi publicly in an internal email, calling her campaign coercive. Naomi read the message once and slid the phone to Lucian. This is why the women demanded protection. Lucian sent a reply to the entire executive team. He stated that the review had his authorization and retaliation would result in immediate suspension. It was the first public choice he made in Naomi's favor. But she did not thank him. She pointed to a payment code repeated beside 12 vendors. This code is not a penalty. Rachel searched the accounting system. The code belonged to a charitable community grant program. Someone had been charging women fees, then reporting the same money as aid Lucian had supposedly given them. The discovery transformed a contract dispute into a reputation scheme. Moretti Hospitality's annual reports praised its grants to women-owned neighborhood businesses. Victor's team had presented photographs, testimonials, and spending totals to city partners. Naomi recognized several photographs. They had been taken at ordinary vendor events, not grant ceremonies. Lucian called Victor back to the hotel. Naomi remained in the conference room because the written agreement gave her a role in the review. Victor objected immediately. She is a maid with a grievance, he said. You are allowing one angry tenant to interpret accounting records. Naomi did not raise her voice. I am a household manager and a licensed business owner. The accounting record interprets itself. Victor claimed North Meridian merely handled compliance mediation. He produced a binder of consent forms signed by vendors who had accepted settlements. Rachel noticed the forms contained digital timestamps from days when several businesses were closed. Lucian asked for original files. Victor said an outside processor controlled them and needed a week. You had hours to close her shop. Lucian replied, you need a week to find consent. After Victor left, Lucian admitted that he had delegated neighborhood acquisitions because his hotel expansion consumed his attention. Naomi said delegation did not erase ownership. The words landed harder than accusation. Lucian's father had taught him that authority meant loyalty from others. Naomi's mother had taught her that authority meant being answerable when others used your name. The investigation moved to Brooks and Bloom, where the network kept paper copies in a locked cabinet. Lucian arrived without assistance, wearing a charcoal overcoat rather than the tailored formality Naomi associated with his estate. Customers paused when they recognized him. His company logo appeared on the redevelopment notice taped to the window. Inside, Naomi showed him the shop's history. Her late mother had opened it with savings from years of domestic work. Naomi had expanded it into event design, then taken household contracts during winter months to stabilize cash flow. The shop was not sentimental decoration. It was a disciplined business with payroll, taxes, and supplier obligations. Lucian examined the closure notice. Under ultraviolet light from a counterfeit detection pen, Rachel found toner differences around the signature block. The witness name had been added after the page was printed. A second clue appeared in the envelope. The postal meter number belonged to the Moretti grant, but security logs showed no outgoing legal mail on the listed date. Naomi's first instinct was to share the findings with all 99 women. Lucian asked her to wait until Rachel secured server copies. If Victor knows exactly what we have, he can shape the missing records. You are asking women who have already waited to wait again. I am asking for 12 hours. Naomi looked around the flower shop. Her employees depended on her judgment, not Lucian's promise. She agreed only after Rachel created a preservation request and Lucian signed a second letter extending every disputed contract for 30 days. That evening, Naomi received a voicemail from an unknown number. The caller did not threaten her. Instead, a woman said she had processed the notices and wanted to talk, but only if Naomi could prove Lucian would not protect Victor. Naomi played the message for him. For the first time, Lucian had no immediate answer. The caller was Marisol Grant, a former compliance coordinator at Moretti Hospitality. She agreed to meet the next morning in the public reading room of the Harold Washington Library. She brought no dramatic confession, only a careful chronology and a small encrypted drive. Marisol said Victor had ordered staff to classify vendor disputes as community grants. The supposed resolution fees entered North Meridian first, then returned in partial amounts through Moretti accounts. The circular transfers inflated Lucian's charitable totals and created private consulting revenue. When Marisol questioned the entries, Victor offered her a severance agreement with a broad confidentiality clause. She signed because her father needed medical care, but she had preserved emails after noticing her electronic signature on forms she had never reviewed. Rachel warned that the drive could not be trusted until a forensic expert verified its origin. Marisol accepted that. She provided device serial numbers, dates, and the name of the managed service vendor that archived company mail. Her restraint made her more credible. Lucian asked why she had contacted Naomi instead of him. Because Mr. Dane always said you cared about the result, not the method. Marisol replied. I did not know whether that was true. Naomi watched Lucian absorb the answer. He could have defended himself by listing policies Victor had violated. Instead, he said, I gave him reasons to believe I would not ask. That admission became the first real bridge between them. Naomi had expected a powerful man to protect his pride. Lucian chose responsibility in front of a witness whose career his company had damaged. Back at the hotel, Rachel arranged forensic preservation through the independent technology firm named in Marisol's records. The archived emails confirmed that her messages existed before the dispute. Yet they also revealed a complication. Victor had not created the scheme alone. Lucian's longtime finance director, Paul Sutter, had approved the accounting categories and advised Victor how to keep amounts beneath internal review thresholds. Paul was one of the men the 99 women had removed from their preferred contact lists that morning. Lucian wanted to suspend both executives immediately. Naomi argued that announcing suspensions before securing the grant files might allow them to claim Lucian was shifting blame. Rachel agreed. They needed one more link between the forged vendor notices and the public reports. That link surfaced in an old photograph displayed in Lucian's own annual report. Naomi recognized the centerpiece from a retirement dinner she had decorated. The report caption described it as a grant celebration for Brooks and Bloom. Naomi had never received the listed $25,000 grant. Her invoice for the centerpiece was $600. The image metadata showed the photograph had been uploaded by Paul's office. The grant ledger recorded payment to Brooks and Bloom, but Naomi's bank statements showed no deposit. The payment account ended in digits belonging to North Meridian. Lucian stared at the report bearing his signature. I certified this. You certified what they gave you. Naomi said. Now you decide what you certify next. He scheduled an emergency board and community review for the following evening. Rather than issue a private correction, he would present the evidence publicly to investors, vendors, and city partners. Before they left, Naomi received another message. This one came from Victor. He offered to save her flower shop permanently if she withdrew the network's complaints. Victor's offer arrived as a polished settlement draft. Brooks and Bloom would receive a 10-year lease, reduced rent, and compensation for administrative inconvenience. In exchange, Naomi would state that the notices resulted from a software error and encourage the 99 women to resume business immediately. The agreement prohibited her from discussing North Meridian. Lucian expected her to reject it. Naomi surprised him by reading every page. "My employees deserve security," she said. "A moral decision is easier when someone else pays for it." Lucian did not pressure her. That restraint mattered more than any promise. He told her the choice was hers. But if she accepted, his investigation would continue without using her private records beyond the authorization already given. Naomi asked whether he would keep the shop open if she refused Victor. Lucian said he could not promise a favorable lease while he still controlled the property. That could look like payment for testimony. He could promise an independent relocation fund for every legitimate tenant if redevelopment proceeded, and he would submit the terms to outside review. It was not the easy answer. It was the honest one. Naomi rejected Victor's agreement and forwarded it to Rachel. The metadata showed Paul had drafted the file 3 days before Naomi discovered the ledger, suggesting the executives had anticipated resistance from at least one vendor. A hidden comment in the document referred to the domestic employee angle and advised using Lucian's household relationship to discredit her. The phrase angered Lucian more than the financial loss. Naomi reminded him that indignation was not protection. He needed procedures. Together, they prepared the public review. Naomi contacted the Southside Women's Ledger and asked members to submit verified records through Rachel, not social media. 99 women had acted as a group, but each claim needed independent support. By midnight, 63 provided bank statements, original notices, or contract emails. 21 had incomplete records. 15 chose privacy. Naomi insisted those distinctions remain visible. Lucian's respect for her deepened because she refused to inflate the case. She did not treat uncertainty as guilt. She wanted justice strong enough to survive scrutiny. The next morning, Victor appeared at Brooks and Bloom with a city inspector and a camera crew. He claimed the shop had unsafe wiring and implied the closure was unrelated to the lease. Naomi produced a recent inspection certificate. The city inspector, realizing he had been given an outdated complaint, declined to issue an order. Victor then told the cameras that Naomi was exploiting her access to Lucian's home. She answered with one sentence: "Every document I submitted came from my business. Public records, or authorized review." Lucian arrived before the interview ended. He did not stand in front of Naomi or speak for her. He announced that Victor and Paul were placed on administrative leave pending independent investigation, and that the evening review would proceed. Victor smiled as if he had expected it. "Then you should ask Naomi who paid the first year of her mother's shop lease." Naomi went still. Lucian turned toward her. The shop's founding papers listed an anonymous community loan from 20 years earlier. Naomi had always believed it came from a neighborhood church fund. Victor held up a copy bearing the Moretti Family Foundation seal. The new question was not whether Naomi had evidence against Lucian's company. It was whether her entire business had begun with money his family could claim. The document threatened the trust Naomi and Lucian had built because it appeared to turn her from an independent witness into a beneficiary. Victor circulated copies to board members before Rachel could verify them. He argued that Naomi's campaign was an attempt to secure favorable treatment for a shop already indebted to the Moretti family. Naomi felt betrayed by the timing, but not by Lucian. Her doubt came from the possibility that her mother had hidden a financial obligation. She closed the shop for 1 hour and opened the metal file box containing every document Ruth Brooks had saved. Lucian waited near the door. He offered to leave. Naomi asked him to stay, not as her employer, but as the person whose name appeared on the paper. They found the original lease, tax receipts, and a promissory note for $8,000. The lender was not the Moretti Foundation. It was a neighborhood lending circle administered by St. Agnes Community Center. Attached was a photocopy of the foundation's donation to the center, one of many gifts pooled into the lending fund. The money had never been loaned directly by Lucian's family, and the note had been repaid in full over 4 years. Victor's copy omitted the repayment page and replaced the community center header with a foundation cover sheet. Rachel confirmed the foundation seal was authentic but taken from a different grant packet. The paper fibers and printer marks showed the pages were assembled years later. Victor's effort to discredit Naomi created another physical link to the document manipulation pattern. Still, Naomi was shaken. He knew where to look. He knew which part of my mother's history would make me doubt myself. Lucian answered, "Because men like Victor study vulnerability as if it were an asset." and men like you hire them because they produce clean results. He accepted the criticism. Then he told her something he had not disclosed. 5 years earlier, Paul had warned that Victor used aggressive intermediaries in a hotel acquisition. Lucian had ordered the issue resolved, but had not demanded the underlying files after the deal succeeded. That omission had taught both men what he was willing not to see. Naomi considered withdrawing from the public review. Her evidence could stand without her presence, and speaking would expose her mother's records. Lucian said the board would hear the truth whether she attended or not. He would disclose his own failure first. That choice restored what Victor had tried to break. Lucian did not ask Naomi to defend him. He prepared to make himself accountable. Before the hearing, Marisol called with one final detail. The archived system showed a mass deletion scheduled for midnight under Paul's credentials. Rachel obtained an emergency preservation agreement from the company's board chair and technology vendor. The deletion was stopped, and the logs recorded the attempt. The restored folder contained spreadsheets matching every disputed notice to a redevelopment parcel, a payment amount, and a reputation benefit in Moretti's annual report. It also contained a column labeled Resistance Risk. Beside Brooks and Bloom, the rating was high. The recommended response was written in Victor's initials: isolate owner. Question credibility. Offer private lease. Naomi printed the page. This is not only evidence, she said. It is their plan for tonight. The emergency review filled the ballroom of the Moretti Grand. Investors sat beside neighborhood vendors, board members, journalists, and representatives from the city partnership office. The 99 women did not arrive as a shouting crowd. They came with numbered folders, signed authorizations, and a shared rule: no claim would be presented without supporting records. Lucian opened the meeting alone. He stated that reports issued under his signature contained false or misleading grant information. He acknowledged that he had rewarded speed, accepted summaries, and failed to investigate earlier warnings. He did not describe himself as another victim of Victor and Paul. Then Rachel presented the evidence in sequence. First came the identical notices using obsolete letterhead. Next came postal meter data and security logs showing the notices had not been mailed as claimed. Bank records traced resolution fees through North Meridian. Archived emails authenticated Marisol's concerns and showed Paul's threshold instructions. Metadata connected the false grant photograph to Paul's office. The attempted deletion log established consciousness of the investigation. Victor requested time to respond. He said North Meridian had corrected administrative confusion and that vendors had benefited from flexible settlements. He called the women's collective action economic pressure designed to embarrass Lucian. Naomi testified after Marisol. She explained the network's purpose, the method used to compare documents, and the limits of the evidence. Her precision undermined Victor's claim that the movement was careless. Victor then produced the altered foundation packet and suggested Naomi owed her business to the Moretti family. Rachel displayed the original St. Agnes file, repayment receipts, paper analysis, and the mismatched seal. Victor had introduced the very document that demonstrated how authentic pages were rearranged to create false meaning. Paul tried a different defense. He claimed Lucian had demanded improved community metrics and never asked how they were achieved. Lucian did not deny the pressure. He asked whether he had authorized fabricated signatures, circular payments, or false grant recipients. Paul could produce no such authorization. The decisive evidence came from the restored spreadsheet. Rachel displayed the resistance risk column beside the private settlement Victor had sent Naomi. The recommended tactic and the actual offer matched line for line. Victor insisted anyone could have edited the spreadsheet. The forensic report showed it had been created on his company laptop 8 months earlier and preserved automatically by the managed service vendor. The board voted to terminate Victor and Paul for cause, refer the financial records to appropriate civil authorities, and commission an independent audit of every community partnership. North Meridian's contracts were suspended. Vendor penalties were voided pending review. A restitution process was created under outside administration so Lucian could not decide individual outcomes. The city representative paused the redevelopment approval until tenants received verified options and hearings. No one cheered at first. The consequences were too serious and the work unfinished. Then Evelyn Price, the caterer whose letter had started the comparison, stood and said the women would resume essential event services only after the written protections were issued. Lucian accepted the condition publicly. As the room emptied, Naomi found him beside the darkened stage. You lost the opening schedule, 2 investors, and control of the redevelopment timeline. I kept the truth from becoming another private settlement. She looked at him carefully. That is not the same as repairing what happened. No, he said. It is the first invoice. The weeks after the review were less dramatic and more difficult. Auditors examined 4 years of transactions. Moretti Hospitality corrected its public reports and returned city incentives linked to false grant claims. Several hotel openings were delayed. Lucian faced criticism from investors who believed confession had cost more than quiet negotiation would have. He did not ask Naomi to defend his decision. Brooks and Bloom reopened under the temporary 30-day protection, but the future of the block remained uncertain. The independent tenant process offered 3 choices: a long-term lease within the revised development, a funded move to a nearby commercial space, or a fair market buyout reviewed by outside counsel. Naomi chose to negotiate for a permanent place on the same street, with no special discount tied to her testimony. Lucian recused himself from her lease decision. That boundary frustrated both of them, yet it protected the voluntary nature of every later choice. The Southside Women's Ledger established a contract clinic with restitution funds paid by North Meridian and Moretti Hospitality. She stated clearly that 15 members had chosen not to submit records and 21 claims remained incomplete. Marisol became its compliance director after an open hiring process. Evelyn joined the oversight committee. Claims were resolved according to records, not membership or publicity. 78 women received corrections or payments. 6 claims were denied for lack of evidence. 15 remained private. Naomi published those numbers because accountability included uncomfortable limits. Lucian changed his company structure. Community contracts required dual review. Vendor notices had to use traceable delivery, and grant recipients confirmed payments directly through an outside portal. He also stepped back from household arrangements that blurred authority. Naomi completed her existing estate contract, trained a replacement manager, and ended the employment relationship on agreed terms. Only after that did he ask her to dinner. She declined the first invitation. You are still learning whether you like me, or whether you are grateful I prevented a disaster. Lucian accepted the answer and did not ask again for 2 months. During that time, he visited Brooks and Bloom only for business open to any customer. He ordered flowers for the reopening of a neighborhood library and paid the posted price. Naomi watched him speak with her staff without using influence. He watched her negotiate the permanent lease and refuse a clause that would have made her shop decorative marketing for the development. The final agreement preserved the storefront, funded necessary building repairs, and guaranteed independent renewal terms. The city approved a smaller project that kept 7 local businesses in place. Lucian earned less than projected. Naomi gained stability without surrendering control. On the anniversary of the public review, the corrected community report was released. It listed every restitution category, every unresolved audit, and Lucian's original certification failure. His name remained attached to the error and the repair. That evening, he returned to the flower shop after closing. Naomi wore a cream blouse, dark trousers, and the same composed expression that had stopped his pen a year earlier. Lucian carried no extravagant gift. He brought a copy of the report and a receipt for a simple bouquet ordered earlier that day. I am not asking as your employer, landlord, or investigator, he said. I am asking as a man who respects your judgment, including the possibility that it says no. Naomi read his face before answering. Dinner. 1 dinner. No private rooms. No business discussion. And no assumption about a second. He smiled. Agreed. She locked the shop and placed the bouquet in the front window beside her mother's original ledger. Their relationship did not begin because he rescued her business or because she saved his reputation. It began after both had surrendered the power to define the other's choice. Outside, the revised development lights came on across a block that still belonged to its community. Lucian offered his arm, then waited. Naomi chose to take it. Subscribe for more fictional stories where hidden records, moral choices, and earned trust change powerful lives.